Yes. Joe Plankus?
Here.
Doug?
Here.
Linda?
Here.
Bob?
Here.
Jill? Jimmy?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Very good, thank you, John. Okay, first item on the agenda is...
Hey, Joe, you might want to hit your mic.
Redevelopment Commission meeting minutes for September 20th, 2021. Are there any...
Hey, Joe, your mic is muted. We can't hear you.
Okay. Sorry, forgot to put the mic on, Chris. Thank you very much. Keeping me straight and narrow. Okay, first item is the minutes for the meeting of September 20th. Are there any questions or changes from the commission members?
I saw a couple things that, after the agenda item, the budget, Todd brought up that next month he would be presenting the SEP. Took a little time to talk about that SEP agreement. And then he talked about the, and it was on the agenda, the BPT Memorandum of Understanding. But I don't see these reflected in the minutes, so I think we should add that.
Okay.
Don't you?
We'll have to check the tape then, John, or video.
Yeah, Linda, could you pass those on to me and Kim String?
Oh, sure, will do.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
we'll
then
get those
she'll
corrected.
get those changes made.
Okay,
Okay, we'll get
Okay.
the changes made. We'll hold off until next month for the
okay,
review of these minutes then.
I'll send those out.
Okay, next item is ratification of current Grand Park user agreements. There were 271 pages, William. Obviously, there's a lot of redundancy in those pages. But
Yeah.
if you cover that, if you will, appreciate it.
Lighter stack than last month, but William Knox, Grand Park Director, we submitted files for you guys to review and ratify. Those are all the user agreements that have been executed since we last met. I believe in this tranche of documents, they were all user agreements, no
Yes, they're all user
sponsorship or
agreements.
anything
Yeah, I
like
went through
that.
them all.
So regular user agreements and then addendums that we had if there were groups had made any changes to that existing user agreement.
Right.
So those are being presented for ratification this evening.
Okay, okay. Do I have a motion for approval of those, or ratification of those agreements?
So moved.
I'll second that. Questions, comments from the commission members? Nothing? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. John, if you'll take roll, please.
Bob?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye. Okay, motion passes. On to the next item. Next item, again, William, it's all yours, Legacy Sports Group.
Yes, I am here tonight to publicly state that I have made a decision to leave my role as Director of Grand Park at the end of this year. And as you all are aware, through our conversations over the last few months, there is still a desire for me to continue to work here in some capacity, to continue what has been started in the way of, has evolved over the years in the way of turning the city of Westfield and Grand Park into the sports capital of America. So in my conversations, I laid out how that would look through my company, Legacy Sports Group. That has been discussed individually. This is the first time we're discussing it publicly. So the slides that are here are just a snip from the larger document that I provided you guys during our individual meetings, just laying out some of the proposed scope that you were able to review and we discussed during a lot of our time together. The timeline here for the transition, obviously we started a few months ago, culminating hopefully with an agreement that will be in place next month that will take effect as of January 1. And then the final slide just kind of goes through some of the terms and conditions. Obviously, this is not the actual instrument that we will use to contract that. As long as everybody is still on board and we're all kind of going in the right direction tonight, we will advance working to get that instrument developed such that you guys can review it and approve it at your November meeting.
I would just add there, William, before you go on, for the commission members, any comments you may have on the terms as outlined here that are eventually going to make it into an agreement, send those in the normal channels through Joe and then me and Cam, and then we'll work separately from William to work through those issues
Good point, man.
as we move forward, just so everybody's kind of aware that,
Have to have arm's length.
absolutely, and we're gonna, evaluate it like we would anybody else.
Okay,
Sorry-
we
sorry.
do
No,
have some.
absolutely.
We do have some comments. I'm gonna start with Doug. He indicated he's got a list of several items that he'd like to discuss in regards to the contract.
Yeah, obviously, William, we hate to see you leave. On the other hand, we're glad you're staying through a different structure. And going through your agreement, obviously, there are many positives, the continuity of operations, your history of the park, the cost savings, but more importantly, the continuity of operations of the park. Couple of concerns I have with the agreement as presented. The initial agreement is an 18-month initial agreement. I'm just wondering, and I know I was in the meeting with Linda, and at that time, we had discussed the length of time of that initial agreement at 18 months seemed to be a little short, perhaps maybe more of 24 months. And then looking at the terms and conditions, in the first paragraph, it's a little ambiguous. I can't understand it exactly, because it says, we'll have an 18-month initial agreement with the ability to continue the agreement on an annual basis, and then with a 90-day notice of termination after the initial 18 months.
Yep.
So after 18 months, does it renew for a year? But one day after we renew that, can you
Yep.
give 90-day notice?
So the initial thought process behind that was the 18-month would give us a little bit of runway to get things figured out as we look to, figure out big picture what we want to do. After our discussion, I think the 24 months is more appropriate and such that there would not need to be a renewal period, I don't imagine. But provided that the services are being, delivered as you, desire, and if nothing has changed, I think over that 24-month period, we're going to have a lot of discussions that will shape what the future looks like. So I don't anticipate this particular scope being the same 24 months from now. So I think the initial term of 24 months would be sufficient, and then we evaluate there moving forward.
Okay, yeah, if we could clarify the
Yeah.
wording in that.
And that'll all come by way of the actual instrument that
Actual
Kim and
document,
Manny will work
yeah.
on. Yes.
And I've noticed that you're looking at monthly updates on a monthly update to the RDC. I'm just wondering if at the beginning of the period or at semi-annual or annual periods, there could be some sort of an outline of your annual objectives or goals, what you see over a longer period of time than just month to month to month.
Well,
And if that could be something
yeah.
that could be incorporated.
And this is
into-
something we haven't discussed yet as a body, nor have I discussed this with Mayor and Chief of Staff Patron, but I feel as though because of this transition, it allows us to be much more nimble and have different conversations than what we're having today. I think as we look to continue to evaluate, I'm sure you might have seen the IBJ. Lebanon is developing a 200+ thousand square foot facility.
Yep.
Now, the developer has a venue here in Westfield as well, but those will continue to evolve and develop. So our conversation needs to be such that what do we need to do within the 400 acres to keep us competitive? And what do we do within the city, whether it's the research hub or other opportunities to continue to propel us in the direction such that all of these venues that are popping up around us, because I will tell you, and I don't have any inside information, but I know that Fisher's probably will be announcing something soon. How do we let those be a complement to what we're doing here in Westfield? So yes, that will be part of the discussion.
Okay, and again, very sad to see you leave, but again, very happy that you're staying.
Well, I
And
will
it's
tell
just
you,
in a different
I'm not-
organizational structure. So,
thank you. I'm not sure that it would be
I'll second
as welcoming if we weren't able to have this dialogue today, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I got a couple to kind of add in. My thought was from the 18 to the 24 months, I think I would like to see maybe a 120-day notice with maybe 1 year rolling on each, going forward. So, because it's really saying in 120 days or 90 days, which you've presented currently, that's a pretty short time frame for the city to for the commission, I should say, to react to trying to find Plan B out or figure out Plan B. The second thing is, and kind of following up with Doug's comment too, from a strategic plan, looking at maybe a 3-year plan and then rolling off 1 year at a time, each year having a formal session to say, okay, here's what we were able to accomplish, here's where we're going, this part of it changes, but now going out another year, this is what we'd like to see out going out in the 3rd year, which would really be the 4th year, you might say, of the plan.
Yeah.
So I think those two particular items kind of caught my eye, and obviously, you know, looking at the financials, the numbers are good, and we've got significant savings for the city with the way you've got it structured. So that's a big plus. Bob, do you have anything you want to ask William, cover with William?
Well, I just say, as I got to know William a little bit over these last months, I think that he's doing a pretty good job out there. I think it's a smart transition, considering what he wants to do with his career. I don't really see it as losing you because you're still gonna be around, right? So, I look at it as we're still gonna get valued service and we're gonna save a bunch of money. So I welcome that, and I look forward to you staying around for a while.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Linda?
Well, I do appreciate the time we had at that meeting to talk, and yeah, the 24-month was on all of our lists then evidently. A couple other questions I had, and I appreciate you sending that superlative group
Yes.
contract, so I could be familiar with that too. So I understand that this will go to contract, we'll probably see that before it is finally approved, or?
Well, that was the whole point of inviting the comments, yeah, so you'd be able
Yes,
to,
and then
all
you'll put
commissioners
together
be
the
involved,
contract, and then
and
we'll all see it.
we would see every iteration of
All
it
the
before it's
details
presented
that we're
finally.
expecting.
Yeah, I think over the next couple of weeks, Linda, is for us to look at it, make our additional comments, send it via email to me, and then, again, we've got to keep William out of that loop. But
Yeah.
that gives us a couple of weeks to really give Manny feedback as they put this thing together legally.
Okay, I just want to
And then
understand the process.
we obviously would get a copy of the
Yeah.
document
Yeah.
prior to the next commission meeting, so we can review it and make sure that everything that we've talked about and that we've highlighted, you might say, is included in that
Okay.
agreement.
Because this is just kind of
Yeah.
a sketch of it.
Yeah.
And I do think that your associations with, other national groups and things is going to benefit us continuing. And I think in our meeting, you said you still expected to spend about 80% of your time.
That is
With-
accurate, probably more,
Grand-
given,
okay.
given
All right.
some of the other opportunities I think that will present themselves, so yeah.
And the staff that you're taking, I think in here it's like 8.
Yep.
Is that what
Yep.
it's?
Yep.
Okay, so no changes to this other than that 24-month that we
That
talked
is the
about.
only
That's
change,
what
yep.
you're seeing here. Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you,
Great.
Linda.
Do we agree to vote to move forward this in, or do we don't vote until the contract?
Well, we
There's
really
no
won't
action
vote
item
until-
tonight, it's just
Okay.
a receipt of
Contact,
information. Yeah, good question.
This is more an open meeting for us to be able to
Discuss.
ask questions
Okay.
and review the information that, and obviously we all had an opportunity to meet with William, which was great to
Yeah.
get a good understanding of what he's trying to achieve with this. Okay, so we'll take the next item on the agenda then, William, is the tree runners proposed agreement that we'll
Yeah.
discuss.
Yes, we've had a lot of dialogue in regards to this as well. I've talked with Manny and Cam regarding this. I think they're gonna work on the actual instrument that we use to contract. I think, based off of my comments with Cam, is gonna be more of a user agreement, not a ground lease, unless that changes.
Yeah, we're evaluating the right mechanism, and we'll communicate that, the best way to protect the city in that regard. Nothing's been set in that. We've just had basic, as William said, discussions about different options, whether it's user agreement versus ground lease or some other, project agreement, some other type of resolution. But for tonight, certainly, there's nothing that's been recommended.
And then I believe I also sent you the projected revenues for the 5-year period, which would give us a brief understanding as to what it would look like from a revenue standpoint. So I think, given my conversations with Gal and his group, they're very interested in advancing this quickly, given that he mentioned last time he was here, they wanted to potentially open March, but obviously a lot goes into developing and getting this kind of ramped up. So
A lot of details.
if you guys are comfortable, once we come up with the instrument that we will use, I would ask for your blessing to kind of continue this dialogue such that, again, at our next meeting, there's either a document for review, or if we could advance it to the point where we're comfortable that we can give him the green light to go prior to, I believe our next meeting is the 15th of November. That's getting really close to where they would need to kind of get some stuff going. So just wanted to see if there were any additional questions or anything else you wanted us to evaluate related to that project.
Okay, anything, commission members?
Well, Manny's then got two things to be working on. However quickly you could put it together, this agreement, and we can review it kind of in the same way.
Okay, now
Well,
just,
What do you think?
go ahead.
Yeah, you know, it's a good question. Part of the issue is we're still evaluating what the best process is, what the best agreement would look like. But certainly we'll work as quickly as possible to
Okay.
make that recommendation. It's all gonna be dependent on what the other side accepts too, right? We can make our recommendation, but
Okay.
who knows how that
I
will
don't,
go.
I don't think there's any objection. This is kind of a neat thing to have in Grand Park, certainly for tourism folks that are coming into town. So I don't certainly have any problem with moving it forward if everybody in the commission's okay with that. Charge ahead, let's see if we can get that done and be ready for the next meeting.
Perfect.
That'd be great.
We will advance conversations in that area.
Okay.
Okay, next item, William again, Grand Park capital improvement discussion.
Yes, since probably day one of this group convening, I've talked to you about capital improvements and trying to put together a document, and I think we are very close to getting that completed. Blake with Bullpen is here, and I'll have him come up here in a second. Him and his team went through and did a thorough evaluation of the diamond side of the campus. Matt and his team also went through and did the same evaluation on the field sports side of the campus, and both groups have brought out resources to start getting estimates on potential improvements. I think I commented a few meetings ago that we still had some time to, before we needed to replace turf, outdoor turf. We're 8-year mark now. And Moats came out, did an evaluation for us, and that is still true. We do still have a little time before we need to replace, but as you could imagine, in this current environment, procuring the resources and materials and labor to install has become more challenging. So what they've indicated to us is that we need at least an 18-month lead time before we can even come close to getting to where we can do an install of turf. So while I thought we had a few years to have the conversation, I think we'll start having that conversation early next year with Matt and myself, kind of coming to you with information and options. Because we'll start to work through some of that. Fields are much different than diamonds. There are some immediate needs on the diamond side of the complex, and I'm gonna let Blake come up for a few minutes and talk a little bit about some of those. As you guys are familiar, may be familiar, there is an escrow account that is set up for the diamond side of the complex that we can pull funds for turf replacement and other capital improvements needs, provided that there's resources available. So Blake will talk a little bit about some of the needs related to some of the turf replacement, and then I'll chime in a little bit.
Thank you, William. Blake Hibbler, president of Bullpen Tournaments. So we've been working with AstroTurf for the last 2 years, kind of trying to put together a plan on our side as to how we're going to replace turf and what we're going to do to take care of the facility. We have to maintain our bases very aggressively. And luckily for us, the original turf put on, there was 8 diamonds that was originally put down when we opened. So that is 1, 3, 4, and 5, and then 13 through 16. 13 through 16 is mainly used for younger athletes and softball. Our play for softball is all high school generally, but it only makes up probably 10% of the games on those 4 fields. So the wear and tear on 13 and 16 has been a lot more minimal and does not really require any attention. The wear and tear on 1, 3, 4, and 5 is starting to become a safety hazard. And basically the turf lays down. We have too many seams. If you've been out there, it's starting to look very quilted around the bases and the play areas. So after talking to AstroTurf, like our 90% of our turf on that field is still in really good shape, but the play takes place in the brown areas on a diamond. So what our recommendation has become is that we want to replace 2 fields this year or at the beginning of next year, but prior to play, and then 2 fields prior to the 2023 season. And we just want to replace the brown. So our recommendation is we think we're going to get a lot more time out of the full field, mainly the green outfield. There's not a lot of play out there, so we don't want to replace that. We want to let that keep going, but we want to put a better product down that's a lot more durable in the brown. And we've been working on this, like William said, with the leeway. We've been working with AstroTurf for almost a year now to come up with a plan and a strategy. So we feel way more comfortable in moving pretty quickly. And then also with the escrow funds, I think with our plan, we're going to have, and William and I are still flushing out the 10-year plan. But we think we're going to have, extra money to be able to do some of the necessary park improvements in the future. So I think by November, we should have a plan together to kind of present what our outlook looks like for the whole entire turf project and kind of go through what we think needs to be replaced and when and how, so.
Blake, for what you just described now, the 2 fields, what is the cost for that? Around ballpark?
Ballpark, they're under, the brown is under 80,000, I believe. Ken Coker's on the phone, he might have the information readily handy.
Ken, can you hear us?
Yeah, it's 8. Yeah, hey guys, this is Ken Coker with Bullpen. It's about roughly 80,000 per field, so $160,000 total that we'd want to dip into the escrow for this fall, starting this fall and finishing up next spring.
Okay, now, do you have a formal quote yet, Blake?
Yes, we do.
So those are good numbers?
Yes, we got it as recently as 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Do you still need an 18-month lead time?
No,
Just do a
we
partial
can-
recovering?
We
or
can do it
recovery?
now. I mean,
You can do it now?
our understanding is we can move faster than that. We're not, with us not doing a full field too, we have a lot of the turf actually on site, so.
William, are you saying there's funding available right now for that, like through the escrow or whatever?
Yes, so as you guys are aware, each December, Bullpen makes a deposit into the escrow account to the tune current day of $285,000 annually. So that pot of money is roughly, I think it's about $585,000 in that account currently.
So, to be clear, when we originally did the park and we had the turf lease agreement, we're not gonna have that again, like
No.
$7.8 million.
No, and
We're
that was
going
just
to
for
be
the
able
initial,
to-
yep.
Okay, and does that escrow account end at a certain time, at a certain year? I thought it was set up, we had so many years.
So it is set up such that the amount is set for a certain number of years, and beyond that
Beyond
time
that?
period, we negotiate what amount should go into the account.
Okay,
We've
so-
had discussions with Ken, and we feel that we'll probably maintain that 285 such that we could do turf and other capital projects within that as well.
Kind
'Cause
of understanding
from-
what's coming up. We
yeah.
have enough experience now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so
Okay.
years 5 through 10, we're
Yeah.
at the 285 level.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Is this going to cause any difficulty with the current schedules that you have as far as doing this partial covering?
With us only taking 2 fields offline, we think we can maintain our college baseball stuff pretty seamlessly, and as long as we have a decent weather year, I think we'll be fine.
No big deal.
Okay. Any other questions for Blake or Ken? Okay, well, William, you guys charge ahead, and let's see what you come up with.
Perfect.
Other than turf was it, huh? That was the whole capital.
For now, I think that
Okay.
as we go through, so we've gone through in this analysis, we want to show you this 10-year analysis now that we have both sides of the park, even though, just for informational purposes, the turf escrow is dedicated for the diamond side of the
Yes.
complex. We will use operational dollars for the field sports side of the complex.
Okay.
But you'll start to see it as one piece, and then you'll have funds that those revenues will come out of.
Okay, so nothing else this evening?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, does that conclude what you need on capital then for tonight, William? Okay,
Yep.
the next item on there is Lot H, bullpen.
Yes. So this is another item that we're trying to evaluate kind of what we're going to do. If you've been to the park and traveled to any of the lots on the diamond side, they're often busy in the summer months. Lot H is a location where Bullpen made an investment early on to put some batting cages there to help kind of spread out some of that use throughout the park. Half of that lot is not paved, it's gravel, and it's starting to deteriorate quickly. So there is a conversation that we're having to figure out what we need to do for that lot in particular, as far as to get it to a point where they can have better utilization. That is one of the outlots that we currently have that is technically listed for sale, but we've been utilizing it for additional parking space for the Diamond side, which is much needed. So I think this is just more for informational purposes. We're gonna work with legal and Ken to understand kind of what we need to do there and figure out how to bring this back to you in November for additional discussion.
Okay. Any other questions for William on that particular item? Okay, if not, John, anything else for the, go to the order before the commission?
Yeah, just, I wanted to bring you guys in on I received a couple invoices from O.W. Crone earlier, and they're for the Aurora North Point activity. The invoices are $1,800, I believe, something like that. In that, if you look at your the document I gave you last time, you'll see I had services for Aurora this year at $500. So it's gonna go over that services, but we have 100,000 plus in that account. So we have the money. I just wanted to let you guys know, when you see those next month, they will be over what I had budgeted, but we have the cash. I just didn't want everybody to jump to any conclusions. I just wanted to be sure that I got out in front of everybody on this one.
And that's really a good thing, John, because that's because of the activity they're generating with.
Oh, clearly,
their
yeah.
new
I'm
buildings.
glad I went over budget.
Yeah, I mean,
Frankly, I'm glad I went over
the
budget.
payment to the city will be done quickly here as that development moves forward.
Does that project anything into next year's budget? Is it what
And not,
anticipated?
at this point, I don't think so. Again, I think we kind of covered it all with the due diligence that Jim did this time. So that's the reason I stuck with the number in '22. Okay? And Joe, that's all I've got.
Yeah, okay. Manny, anything for, go to you?
No, just keep in mind on the escrow side, just go back to that part of the agreement. There's a kind of a two-step there that I know William's aware of in how the escrow funds have to be used, synthetic versus the rest. I'm sure they've gone through that already. I just want to make a point for the record to heed the contract, as we all must.
Right. We always have to follow the contract,
Right.
no doubt.
Other than that, no, thank you, Mr. President. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much. If we have no other business, look forward for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Meeting is adjourned.